Graduate tracking has been in development and being used at national as well as at institutional level to have a good overview of how graduates enter the labor market, how graduates pursue their careers, their life undertakings after their graduation, after they leave school at various levels of education. Uh, Very often, people believe that graduate tracking indicate or should focus on the employment aspects. So meaning how graduates transition from school to work, what kind of jobs, in which period of time they find jobs, whether these jobs are more or less matching their profile, meaning the field of study or the level of qualification they have acquired. However, graduate tracking studies have also other purposes and can provide interesting insights about the satisfaction students have or graduates have about their study, about their institutional, educational institution, about the curriculum, about the way they were mentored or prepared actually for life, for career, and also, of course, for employment. In a number of countries, for example, in the European Union, uh, graduate tracking studies have acquired a very important history, experience, very well elaborated methodology package and underpinnings. And countries such as, for example, the Netherlands have started graduate tracking studies already in the 90s. And the purpose of the government, the Ministry of Education, was exactly to collect evidence, concrete evidence about certain problems that were being reported on the employment of graduates from certain areas, certain fields of study, from certain types or levels of qualification. So since the 90s, the government, the Ministry of Education started a collaboration with ROA, so ROA of Maastricht University, which is the research center on education and labor market. And these regular annual studies based on surveys were carried out, improved, developed, data collected and analyzed through years with reports, insights, recommendations issued, published, discussed also publicly. And of course, this tradition of graduate tracking surveys carried out by ROA, the Institute, the Center for Research on Education and Labor Market of University of Maastricht, they continue. However, recently the Ministry of Education has thought to add a new element, and it is using data from administrative databases, from registers. And so this data can be accessed based on, let's say, agreements with the Central Statistical Office. And this data can be combined and analyzed, providing very important and deep insights on certain aspects that have a more quantitative orientation, whereas the surveys can also give quantitative, of course, analysis, but they provide the qualitative views, subjective views of the subjects of the study. So this combination is of data from registers and data from surveys is a new orientation that is being explored by other countries as well, such as Ireland. So what what can be said here again about the contribution of graduate trackings to improve learning and outcomes of learning is that thanks to the growingly improved computing power, to the new approaches and tools to explore data and combine data from different types of data sets, different types of data, structured, non-structured, or semi-structured, really improves very much the coverage that graduate tracking can have about a number of indicators, a number of issues. So, for example, the participation rate, so really the information about the labor market position of graduates can be taken from these registers. And these registers include, for example, registers on social security, tax, self-employment. And so this data on the participation rate, on labor, income, number of hours worked, type of contract. So let's say the quality of work is an important set. But then the surveys, they cover other aspects that registers cannot cover. So, and these are the aspects that can be very important on the actual quality and relevance of learning, and can then be conveyed in form of recommendations, in form of information for career guidance professionals, in form of recommendations, for example, for management of education and training institutions, regarding elements of learning that can be improved. And so it is this combination of data sets, of methods of analysis that can be further and further explored and be used for to improve the performance and the relevance of learning. This is particularly important in let's say in a period when young people are extremely open, of course, to using tools of social media, of the internet channels for communication and getting information, and so learning is taking place more and more outside of the walls of schooling, and so this is also something that needs to be factored in carrying out graduate tracking studies. So not only the formal learning path that takes place within, let's say, the structured schooling, but also additional formats of extracurricular activities, volunteer activities, work-based learning activities that are in fact even part of the qualification, but are a little bit more non-formal, and they are combined. So it is this diversity of learning modalities also that graduate tracking studies, surveys can cover, and can contribute very much to better understanding what works, in which conditions the effective, let's say, approaches or experiments work. So not only what works, but in which conditions this works, and under which let's say supporting or enabling policies or sets of measures. So perhaps what is very fundamental also is that results need to be presented in readable and appealing way to various users groups. And again, the very wide range of tools that exist nowadays and are becoming more and more disseminated and used can contribute, can enable exactly this tailoring of the results to various types of users groups. So results that are conveyed and shared with the uh, wider community of learners, of even parents, uh, have to be presented differently than the ones that are then channeled for policymakers, for decisions and discussions at the parliament or other political bodies, or those that are then used by the actual education and training institutions and published on their websites, um, for communication with their let's say target groups. So graduate tracking studies really can cover a range of purposes beyond the very kind of important, no doubt, very important objective, which is to understand how graduates are transitioning, how effectively is their transition from school into a productive or activity and further career development, including further studies.